Dear future friends, let's take this opportunity in time to broaden our minds. I've spoken with many of you today and yesterday, and I found the same thing that I've found in my work discussing with the several C-level people in a variety of companies in different industries. And I found that the word digitalization has plenty of meanings. We use it constantly. It's a buzzword that has been referenced today and yesterday by many, but also with hidden meanings that are somehow implicated but not directly stated. And I found that this obfuscates the message that many of us try to conceive on the value that digitalization brings to the table. So today I'm going to talk about things that are bringing value to you through digitalization. And my presentation is going to be in 3 parts. And I'm going to be arrogant enough to start by explaining what digitalization is. Then I'm going to give to you an imprint on your brain, on a mindset that helps you leverage the benefits of digitalization. And then on the 3rd part, I'm going to enforce and reinforce that imprint on your brain by giving you concrete examples of what the possible benefits are. So, let's start with digitalization. I'm going to give you an example. Let's start by digitalizing a watch. Easy enough. Everybody knows, many use them. And the first approach, of course, and the first stage when you start thinking about digitalizing a watch is that, okay, you have a digital watch, mission complete. But then when you approach this in a more concrete and what is the actual value of having a watch, aside of the aesthetics, you might realize that the time and having the time accessible on you at any given moment is the actual value that this brings to the table. So just bringing the watch into a same kind of device as a digital is not the answer. One example of digitalizing a watch, meaning that you take the value of knowing the time and having it with you, is represented here as a Python code. 2 lines of code that are portable. You can use them as a way to use this time in any system. You can bring it to the user in any interface. It might be your mobile phone, your computer, whatever. But it can also be used to pass on the time to a different system. And of course, you might understand that this requires certain things. It assumes that you have these libraries that are enabling the time to be used. And this is digitalization. At the moment, we are relying on systems and solutions that have been built before. We are not using the term ICT anymore. We are talking about different things. And digitalization is now the way of thinking in business which harnesses the possibilities of digitalization and digitality. And the fact of life that we are now able to represent real-life phenomena and anything that happens in reality as bits and bytes. This is digitalization. And I talked to you earlier when I started here about the imprint that I want to have in your brain during this presentation. And this is the mindset that enables harnessing this possibility represented by digitalization in your business. And it's simply this. Does anyone disagree with this? Please raise your hand. You would be the 2nd or 3rd person to do so. None disagree. And yet, when you think about building digital solutions, more often than not, when I discuss with people, again, at C-level in companies, and we discuss their sort of status in the world of digital, and they start describing the fact that they have SAP as their ERP system, they have Dynamic CRM, and this is all under the sort of mindset of digital in their minds. which is a bit confusing because the true value of digital is that there are no limits for what you can do. And then if you start trying to achieve competitive edge by buying things that anybody else can buy at the moment, purchase SAP and Dynamics CRM, whatever, that's not going to bring any actual value to you. You shouldn't focus on that when you think about digital. But the real thing about digitalization is that it enables you to transform reality into bits and bytes. And starting with that mindset, you can start looking at things in your value chain that bring the actual value. And more often than not, the things that are actually unique to you and starting to digitalize them is a huge risk. It's usually very sort of specific to your business, so it's not been done before. It usually is something that's very costly. It requires specific knowledge of your business, specific capabilities in technology to do it. But the companies who are aiming for this part and this foursquare, they are the ones that are going to disrupt the business. Companies like Uber are operating in high-value, high-risk area. And Uber is a very good example of going digital fully, because nobody knows if they're actually going to succeed in their model or not. Nobody knows. But if they win, and they have taken the risk, they will destroy all the competition, because they will disrupt the market. They will destroy logistics as a business model. So what we do, we try to help our clients and businesses to identify what is their position here and how could they leverage this possibility to go right past their competition instead of just trying to be just as good as everybody else, which means purchasing ready-made solutions for the whole value chain. Of course, then the question arises, talking about this digitalization, and are we really able to do anything in digital? Is it possible to do transformation of any phenomenon in life into digital? How far is the horizon for this? Is the full automation even possible at the moment? Are we there yet? So I'm going to give a couple of examples of things that have been happening for some time and what is the situation at the moment, and some things that have emerged that are vehicles in the technology side for things that might not have been possible before. For example, blockchain. And I'm not talking just about cryptos. I'm talking about using blockchain as a distributed ledger system to execute authentication, authorization, transactions, contracts. It's possible. We have platforms that enable you to build your own blockchain within a matter of hours. And of course, the emergence of thousands of cryptocurrencies is a sort of evidence that this is very easy at the moment. And we are seeing the implication and implementation of this in logistics, in finance, in contracts. It's emerging and it's making things possible that haven't been possible before. Another thing a bit related to blockchain is, if you consider processing capacity and power available to us at the moment and the price point for processing, you can take this comparison, for example. Some years ago, you could purchase for several €100,000. There's rack from Fuji providing 11 teraflops. 2 years ago, I brought this display adapter, which cost a bit over €1,000, providing the same calculation power. And then, since I have had this slide for a couple of years now, I just upgraded my display adapter to a next model, 10-fold increase in 2 years at the same price point. So things that were not very feasible 5 or 6 years ago, things like running neural networks to do face recognition at the door, were not feasible 5 years ago, but they are very much so now. We can do very complex calculations locally at a very low price point. And this is very interesting because if you look at the sort of raise in the processing power in just 2 years, you can imagine how this scales upwards. And what does this mean in things that will be possible 2 years from now? So, to summarize, we are of course there already. I'm sure you knew the answer, but just trying to reinforce this position to you that technology enables things that enable us to transform anything that you do in your business into digital. It's possible, and we've been here for some time. So, this raises the question, of course, when we are talking about business, why don't we leverage this possibility? What are the reasons that I have found that are the reasons why companies are not leveraging this? So, of course, everybody starts with the usual. So we have these processes that we need to do in our business. We need to run this business as it is, and it takes all our focus and time to do that. Or we don't know where to start. We are not digital people. We specialize in our own industry, and we have our own areas of expertise. We don't know where to start. We don't have a model for it. We lack the people who are able to run these operations. And we don't even have the facilities to do it. So what to do? So it boils down to the fact that there's no R&D culture, and it's not ingrained in the culture and operations of the business. And of course, there's no easy solution to this, because you can't change the whole organization overnight. But there are, of course, some solutions to bypassing this. And of course, here at Vincit, we have done things that are enabling to do things more rapidly. We can provide our own expertise and the facilities and so forth to make this happen. And we guarantee that you will get some results pointing you the next direction in 4 to 6 weeks. We have seen this. So it's not hard. You just need the right people in the right place and focused on the task. And all we need is a pitch. We are good at digital, you are good at your business. We need you to pitch what you're trying to achieve, and we will get some results in this frame of time. Let me give you a couple examples what we have done to show the actual capability and the promise of digital in a variety of cases that are maybe far-fetching, pretty much out there. And people were skeptical, is this feasible or not? But we did them. So first case was for Eureka, the science center in Vantaa. And for background, there's this study that found out that the emotions are felt on the body. And Eureka decided that they want to bring this finding in some way or form to their upcoming exhibition in Eureka. And of course, thinking about the study, they found that it might be interesting to have some sort of system that could evoke this haptic feedback even, or to rise emotion on the body. And of course, looking at this pitch, you can't be sure if this is something that you can do. Is it feasible? Nobody knows. So we started working in 2 teams, and we tried to build, of course, the suit. We tried to build something that you can wear and which you can touch and then point on where you are feeling things, which would also maybe give you a bit of haptic feedback. And another approach that we considered was that maybe we can use cameras and Microsoft Kinect, for example, which is coming out of the shelf. It's ready-made, and it has this development environments which enables things that are pretty similar to the use case. So we tried both, and we found that, okay, it's possible to build a suit, but it's very clumsy. And since Eureka wants to send this exhibition to travel globally, it would be very hard to support the operation there on the floor in Paris and Hong Kong and so forth. So we decided to go with the Kinect-based solution. And it's going to be on the floor in Eureka. So in 6 weeks, we went from nothing, a hypothesis and a finding in a scientific study, to having 2 prototypes and then a working model for doing this with Microsoft Kinect. Another case was with a client in Finland who provides this accessing metric data for engines, batteries, and so forth. They have the data. They have the sensors in the solutions which they sell. And they thought about it would be interesting to, instead of having all these physical meters, if there would be some kind of solution to do this in digital. They didn't have any idea of how it would be done and what would be the solution. Is it a sort of web solution or what? And of course, they wanted it to do it in a way which wouldn't require having any sort of barcodes or QR codes which would require installation on the machines. That would be counterintuitive. So we started trying things. We tried shape recognition combined with location data on the machines, and it worked. We were able to identify individual machines on a mobile based on their shape and location, and connect it to the data provided by the RNN data system. And we built it in 6 weeks in Unity from scratch. Mission accomplished. And then as a third case, a company, a startup here in Finland, was thinking about access management. I'm sure everybody here has a badge to some place that they work or live in. And it's not a very intuitive system at the moment. Managing those access services is not also very intuitive. And it doesn't take so long to get access to some premise. It might take 2 hours or a couple of days, but it's a hindrance. And this company is looking for ways to provide access as a service. Somehow leverage all the possibilities that we have touched on today to build a solution that would provide this as a service where you don't need centralized management. You can have the users as the trusted partners to provide access to another user and integrate with any existing locking system, for example. And of course, since they are a startup, as a bonus challenge, if we do it on blockchain, the venture capital will come flowing in. So, where we are now, we have this platform, it's ready. It's cloud-based, but we have local processing ensuring that each lock has a processing unit, and we are able, based on this calculation power, we are able to do psychoanalytics, behavioral analytics on the users. We are able to integrate any existing locking system if it's electric. We can integrate to any existing IAM system, AD. If you create a user in AD, it will be immediately rolled out to this access service. And it's completely regardless of if you have a super user or centralized management. The users are the key here, and the trusted users are operating the system. If there's an intruder in the building, it will be notified to the people in proximity or selected users, and so forth. And we are doing this for a Finnish gaming company as a first local client, and the rollout will be in 2020. So just, again, one example of bringing disruption. There's nothing new here. All the technologies, as you see, they are using existing electronic locking hardware. They are relying on AD, existing IAM systems. So even running it in Azure. So what's the deal here? The point is that they are leveraging all the things that are happening now in the market and bringing it to the digital environment as a service. And they are using their knowledge of the industry as the leverage on finding things that, what has been the pain point in access management? It's been slow, it's been hindrance to business processes. Let's cut the corners and make it user-centric. And the technology enables this. In this point of time, this is possible. And I'm sure they will disrupt the market with the solution. So my conclusion based on all this, there's no excuses. If you are not doing this, if you are not leveraging all the possibilities that are out there, some of which I pointed out today to you, there's none. You just need to have the time and the energy to identify your pitch. What is the point in your value chain at the moment which brings most value to the table? And start working around that as a point where you can leverage digital and bypass your competition. Thank you.